KOMB-FM. Fort Scott.
Coach's Corner is back. Welcome to tonight's show, where we get caught up with this year's Fort Scott Tiger football program and all things Fort Scott High School. Coach's Corner comes your way live from one of the Bowmans family restaurants. For this hour, we'll be chatting with head Tiger football coach Jonathan Stark, discussing all things football, but you never know who may end up in the Coach's Corner with us. Tonight's Coach's Corner is brought to you on location at the Outpost 13 West, Southwest cuisine, where you design your own mouth-watering meal, or try one of their new dinner combos at 13 West Oak Street in downtown Fort Scott. Also sponsored by Gross Insurance at 18 South National in Fort Scott, providing coverage in Kansas and Missouri. Large enough to solve your complicated insurance needs, but small enough to care. Get a free quote at grossins.com. And brought to you in part by these enhanced sports boosters: Atkins Insurance, Casper Enterprises LLC, Billiard Hammer Hardman Insurance, Fort Scott Community College, the Hole in the Wall Liquor Store, Pinar Eye Care of Fort Scott, La Hacienda, Myrick Mechanical, Marsh's Deli, Norris Heating and Air Conditioning, Opie's Pizza, and State Farm Insurance. This program is also made possible by all KOMB KMDO sports boosters. Now let's huddle up for all the action at the Outpost 13 West Coach's Corner on All Hit 103.9 and our YouTube channel, Fort Scott TV. Here's the voice of the Tigers, Dillon Duffy.
Good evening, Tiger fans, and welcome to the Coach's Corner, where we're going to break down all the action from past Friday night and look into the upcoming battle. I'm Dillon Duffy, your host and voice of the Tigers, and tonight we're coming to you after a tough Week 1 loss on the road, where the Fort Scott Tigers fell to Paola Panthers by a final score of 34-6. But as always, you know, the score doesn't always tell the full story. This was a game that was tight through the first two quarters, where Paola struck early on the 7th play of the game, but Fort Scott held them scoreless the rest of the half. The Tigers had a golden opportunity to tie things up on their second drive, where they marched all the way down to the Panther 2-yard line but came up just short. And I'm sure we're going to get into that. But as always, joining me now is head coach Jonathan Stark to help us break it all down. Coach, we appreciate you having you here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. I think we lost the toss and they deferred.
Yep.
And then so we got ball first because, you know, obviously you want to receive the ball at the beginning or you're going to be kicking twice. And I've seen it happen before, but luckily we didn't do that. So we got those kind of jitters out of the way. First drive, quick 3 and out. I think we saw a couple good things. They obviously keyed on what we were probably going to do, and that was run Ryder Newton right at him. And, you know, we tried to establish him early. They got the ball. 2 plays, they got a big gain. I mean, obviously we talked about him and how fast he was, and they got him to the outside on quick 2 toss plays and scored that touchdown. But we can dive in there, but also we can really dive into after that. It was a pretty muddy first quarter where we, you know, defensively we showed up, and offensively we started marching the ball down the field. But kind of just want to get your thoughts going into that.
Yeah, so kind of like we talked about last week, and we knew going into the game. You know, it's certainly not an excuse, but the reality is there's no substitution for Friday Night Lights.
No, not
and
at all.
the speed of the varsity football game. And we do, you know, we get a great look in practice, but nothing like a real Friday night game. We did a lot of stuff this summer, but again, the intensity is just not quite the same. So, you know, I thought our players were ready. I thought they were focused. I think what you could see the first couple drives of the game, you know, offensively we had a quick 3 and out. We moved the ball the first 2 or 3 plays of the game. We had, you know, a blown blocking assignment, or maybe we had somebody in the backfield who just went the wrong direction, or, you know, we kind of had blown assignments that were really self-inflicted, which can happen. I thought we settled down, and once we settled down, we started being a lot more competitive. I felt that way on both sides of the ball. So, offensively, you started the game with the 3 and out, which is what you never want to do. We were able to have a pretty good punt. They had no return, so set up our defense in great field position. Like you said, they had a couple big plays, so it didn't take them too many plays to score. So we weren't able to capitalize on that field position. But once it was 7-0, it was like I was proud of our guys from the sense that I thought we kind of just calmed down and started playing. You know, after that, we got the ball. After they scored, we drove the ball down the field, 1st and goal from the 3-yard line. Weren't able to get in the end zone. And that's embarrassing. It's not acceptable. I take responsibility for that. I need to do a better job of having the players prepared and need to do a better job of calling plays and practicing goal line and, you know, all of those things. So that was frustrating. We've definitely worked on that a lot more this week. You know, when we weren't able to score, I thought our defense battled. And, you know, Paola's a great team. They got a great scheme, but it wasn't like they started running different plays than they did the first drive. We just kind of settled in and started playing a little bit harder and started making some of the tackles we missed that first drive. And then, like you said, at halftime, it was a 7-0 game. And we felt like, you know, we were right in it, kind of right where we wanted to be. Obviously, we would have liked to have been in the lead. But we felt good about our chances in the second half. And then the second half, it just was kind of one of those deals that felt like you just couldn't get any momentum, really on either side of the ball. A couple times it felt like we had them stuffed, and then they'd convert a 4th down. Whether it be, you know, credit to them, they're a great team. They had some really good plays on 4th down that were tough to stop. A couple times they converted because of a penalty. That's tough. Yeah. You know, and they did a really good job defensively of slowing us down. Sometimes we break off a big run or a big pass, and we weren't able to string enough good plays together in a row without having a negative play that would kind of kill the drive. So, you know, I was super proud of the effort. I thought our players played really tough. I don't feel like they ever quit or just gave up. You know, there was a stretch in the second half. I felt like we were battling. We had a fumble, and they recovered. The next play, they fumbled the ball, and then they picked it up and threw a touchdown. And that was a tough swing because, you know, our defense had just gotten a stop. Our first play on offense, we fumbled the ball. And then, boom, the very next play, they scored a touchdown off of a broken play. So I think that made the score maybe look a little more deceiving than what it was. I felt like we competed and it was a competitive game. I'm disappointed we didn't win, but I'm proud of how we've responded this week and how we've practiced. And I think playing a team like Paola is what makes you better.
I believe that wholeheartedly as well. And, I mean, I kind of saw a little bit of the practice today, and, you know, the boys were back. They were getting after it a little bit. Pads were popping again, and they were excited, you know. But I can tell in practice they're focused on the next game at hand, and we're going to get into that in the second half of the show. But really want to dive back into that first touchdown drive that they had after we great chance. We flipped the field, you know, that things were looking good there. And I kind of thought, you know, if we were a little bit closer to the middle of the field, we probably would have went for it. I think it was like 4th and 6. I mean, it was kind of in that no man's land, but we were a little bit back. But, you know, it's one of those, I think we give the kids an opportunity. If we were a little bit closer in the middle and better things would happen, we might have scored on the first drive there. But we didn't. Great Aussie kick, kind of rolled out to the right where it was kind of one of those, if there was an open lane, he might have took off, but he didn't. He punted it. Great punt, flipped the field. And then we kind of keyed on what I saw in practice last week up in the booth. What I saw is Dexter made on that second play, made him cut back in perfectly, and it was just like you said, kind of everybody was there, but we kind of missed a few tackles, and he really showed his speed on that touchdown, how fast he really was, because, I mean, he got him to cut in, and he was just gone. I mean, there's not one guy to beat, and he beat it pretty quick.
Yeah, no, on that play specifically, you know, that's where I'm saying it was kind of like after that we settled in because, Dexter did his job. He did a good job of setting the edge, coming outside in. Paola has a lot of speed. He put his foot in the ground and got vertical, and we had guys in position. And, you know, for whatever reason, it didn't work out that play. Now, after that, for the most part, it did work pretty well defensively. Yeah. They did a good job they started making those plays and making those tackles throughout the rest of the game. Yeah. It's you know, it's kind of frustrating, but sometimes that just happens, and I think they settled in well and continued to compete throughout the game.
100%. And, you know, and the thing that we really appreciated and saw out of the guys is right after that, like you said, they really did, like, seem to calm down because we marched it right down the field. You know, we didn't take the quick burning plays. We had a couple quick pops, but then we also just methodically got down there, and we got was inside the 5, and I was up there. I was like, we're about to score. Like we're gonna have a game here, and unfortunately we didn't get in. Like you said, you thought maybe different play calls, but hindsight, Henry's always right. You know, it's always tough to in the fly. Like no, you know, I mean, Ryder got you all the way down there for the most part with some big, long, hard runs, and you kind of want to reward him, and he unfortunately didn't get in, and neither did Cannon or Creed. But so we got them back there, and for the rest of I mean, it wasn't slow game then, but you know, for the most part, our defense did step up, and I think they kind of understood, hey, you know, if we can contain him, it'll be a long game for him. And that first half, you know, I think going into halftime, we had some real good, you know, if we can make our changes, we're going to get in there. And honestly, we didn't have to change a whole lot because, like I said, we marched down the field a few times. I mean, we got down to the 2 on that one, but then there were some other drives where we got closer, and you know, there at halftime, I think we were close, but we just quite couldn't get in again. We got in the red zone several times.
Yeah.
So our offense looked really good, I thought. You know, we had one of those kind of lousy interceptions that wasn't really, you know, it was just get the ball away, and unfortunately he was right there. They did a really great job on defense of holding that off. I think going into it, we run triple option mainly. What did you see in the first half that, you know, was he reading well? Did we do the right things there? Was there some things that maybe we needed to look at a little different?
Yeah, no, I thought Caden Cannon did a really good job of reading the option. You know, in the first half, we had a couple long runs that were triple option plays that we just read right, and we were able to break. It was kind of a weird first half offensively. We were inside, you know, it was 1st and goal from the 3. We couldn't convert. We had the ball 1st and 10 on their 14. Then the drive stalled out because we had a couple penalties. So that was tough.
And you brought those up, and you know, we talked about that was the things that we also had to win. We had to win the penalty, the turnover battle, and stuff like that. And unfortunately, you look at the box score, and we didn't win either of those. So it was kind of tough to put you behind the 8 ball there.
It does. And, you know, as far as our option game goes, we had a couple times we put the ball on the ground. You know, it's never okay, and it's not an excuse. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think that was maybe a little bit expected, you know, first game. Sometimes, you know, going into it like, yeah, you know, we may struggle to put the ball on the ground a little bit. And you just kind of got to play through it. And, you know, you can't make it an excuse, because if you do, you don't coach through and you just fumble every game.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's not the approach we're taking, but that hurts, obviously, when you put the ball on the ground. You know, Paola had 6 fumbles offensively, and we didn't recover any.
No.
And I wouldn't say that was for lack of pursuit by our defense. Sometimes it just seems to not go your way. And, you know, to me, I just felt like it was a game we just couldn't get any momentum. You know, we'd have some good plays on offense. We'd have some really good plays on defense. We couldn't do it consistently enough to beat a really good team. And I think Paola's a great team. So I thought we hung in and battled really well. You know, the first half went by pretty fast. We drove the ball, stalled out. And then, you know, we already talked about the first drive of the game was a 3 and out. The next 2 drives of the game, we drove the ball, couldn't punch it in. Then the 4th drive of the game, we were in our 2-minute offense. So I think we got the ball with 3 minutes or so left in the first half, down 7-0. Picked up a couple first downs, had the ball at about midfield. Then we started going hurry up, had some good completions, and then that's when we had our interception. There was, you know, not tons of time left on the clock, so we made it to half with that, you know, with it being 7-0. So I wouldn't say that turnover was too costly.
No.
And then in the second half, we didn't have the ball much.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when we did, we had a turnover. We had another drive in the second half. We just drove a long ways, you know, good, almost the length of the field, and scored a touchdown. And that chewed up some time on the game clock. So playing a team like Paola, who does a great job of controlling the clock, you don't have your many possessions on offense, so the possessions you have, you really got to make count. And you got to find a way to score a touchdown.
Yep.
And we didn't do that enough.
Yeah. Nope. I mean, missed red zone opportunity there. I think that kind of would change the aspect of the game quite a bit there in the first, and you don't quite know. I mean, if you go into halftime 7-7, there's a lot of adjustments. Again, hindsight Henry that they would have to make too, because for the most part they didn't stop us. We almost stopped ourselves on some of the offensive drives, and as the season goes on, that's going to get a lot better, and we're going to look back on it and not have to worry about that towards the end of the season, because we're going to be a sound fundamental football team. But I do want to get to our first break tonight, and then after that we're going to kind of come in and talk about the second half. But we'll be right back to talk about the changes after halftime. So stay tuned, and you are listening to Coach's Corner on All Hit 103.9 and Fort Scott TV on YouTube.
Hi, my name's Kimba. My name's Gracie. And I'm Nora. We're the Bowmans!
We invite you to stop in at 13 West Oak Street in historic Fort Scott for the new Outpost 13 West.
Tacos and burritos, nachos and salad, or both. Build your own at Outpost 13 West in Fort Scott.
It's Southwest cuisine where you pick your favorites and we build it. Save room for dessert and vegan-friendly ice cream.
Open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 until 8, and Sundays, 11 until 3. Let our family feed your family at Outpost.
Living in southeast Kansas, you know the weather can be unpredictable. Your homeowner's coverage doesn't have to be. With Gross Insurance Agency on your side, we can make sure you are covered when severe weather strikes. Every year, the cost of repairs goes up. Let us make sure you have peace of mind in knowing that you have the right coverage. Stop in at 18 South National or give us a call today. Gross Insurance Agency, small town customer service, big coverage. Follow us on Facebook at Gross Insurance Agency.
See Tim Heiser, Certified Financial Planner at 202 East 23rd Street in Fort Scott to build your tomorrow. Tim Heiser, a proud K1B Sports Booster. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
Can you feel fall in the air? At Verrier Resale Clothing, we have switched our inventory to suit the season. We have new fall arrivals, everyday low prices, $1.50 offerings, and the addition of a half-price rack. Come shop with us at 114 East 23rd Street. Be sure to follow us on Facebook to stay updated. Verrier is a little resale shop with a lot to offer.
My name's Kimba. My name's Gracie. And I'm Nora. We're the Bowmans!
We invite you to stop in at 13 West Oak Street in historic Fort Scott for the new Outpost 13 West.
Tacos and burritos, nachos and salad, or both. Build your own at Outpost 13 West in Fort Scott.
It's Southwest cuisine where you pick your favorites and we build it. Save room for dessert and vegan-friendly ice cream.
Open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 until 8, and Sundays, 11 until 3. Let our family feed your family at Outpost.
Living in southeast, you know the weather can be unpredictable. Your homeowner's coverage doesn't have to be. With Gross Insurance Agency on your side, we can make sure you are covered when severe weather strikes. Every year, the cost of repairs goes up. Let us make sure you have peace of mind in knowing that you have the right coverage. Stop in at 18 South National or give us a call today. Gross Insurance Agency, small town customer service, big coverage. Follow us on Facebook at Gross Insurance Agency.
Your hole-in-the-wall liquor store at 124 East Wall Street in beautiful downtown Fort Scott is excited to be another sports booster. They believe in our kids, their parents, and this community. Let's fill up the bleachers and cheer our kids on with any sport. Hole-in-the-Wall Liquor Store, 124 East Wall. Fort Scott Community College is offering tuition waivers for all permanent Bourbon County residents. For more information and to enroll, go to fortscott.edu. Keeping education affordable with students first and community always. That's Fort Scott Community College, a K1B Sports Booster.
And with that, welcome back to Bowmans Outpost West 13. We got our food during break, so we were kind of chomping down on that. But let's get into the nitty-gritty here, the second half of that Paola game here. Unfortunately, that's kind of when the tides turned. I kind of wrote down when they scored and everything like that. And like you brought up, a few times they scored on a drop. I mean, it was a bad snap. It was on the ground. Athletic quarterback picked it up, and that's kind of when we had eyes downfield. Next thing you know, or in the backfield, and next thing you know, they had a 30-yard touchdown pass. We kind of went with a trick play right before that with a little reverse pass for a touchdown, and then the quarterback sneak where they drove it down the field and they were able to score there. But those were the 3 touchdowns before we got on the board. But let's talk about those 3, and then we'll talk about what we saw kind of getting into our touchdown later on in the game. But with those 3, I mean, like you said, there was some things there that if it would, a ball bounces the other way, they might not score, and we might have the ball back with the chance to get in the end zone before they do again.
Yeah, no. So, man, first got to give tons of credit to Paola because I think they're a really good football team. I was really impressed with some of their linemen up front. They did a really good job of locking on their blocks. They had some really good double teams offensively. I was impressed with, they stayed really patient. We gave up a few big plays throughout the game, but for the most part, especially in the second half, they really had to drive the ball on us, and that's hard to do in high school football. So I think they deserve a lot of credit for staying patient and just continuing to have a positive play after positive play. And if they had a negative play, they responded well and didn't really have too many negative plays in a row. So as far as adjustments that Paola made, they really kind of stuck with their game plan offensively. We felt like Paola is a team that lines up in a bunch of different formations. In the second half, we kind of got in the game of they would run a formation. We'd adjust to it. They'd change the formation. They'd kind of stick in the formation for a little bit. We'd adjust to it, and then they'd change a different formation. And which is fine. That's just part of football. But their first drive, you're never okay with getting scored on. But if we're going to get scored on, it needs to be because the other team was able to put together 10 or more plays to score. And if that happens, credit to the other team. So that's kind of how we felt about that. There are a couple other scores they had in the second half. That one broken play, I mean, it's tough. It's not an excuse. You got to have disciplined eyes and stay in coverage. And if you're a pass-first player, you got to be a pass-first player. If they put the ball on the ground, we need to get the quarterback corralled and get him sacked and not allow him to throw the football. And then they had a reverse pass for a touchdown, which was a great play call by them. It was at the first play of the fourth quarter, so there was a quarter change, obviously, when we had the opportunity to talk to the players. And we know Paola's kind of historically been a team that runs a trick play. And in that, it wasn't a timeout, but at the change of the quarter, we kind of reminded the players, like, this is typically a situation where a team comes out and runs a trick play, so let's make sure we're ready. And the call we made was we sent a little pressure, and we were in man coverage. We thought if we did that, sending pressure would stop the trick play. Sometimes they're longer developing. And if we were in man coverage, we'd cover all the eligible receivers, and we wouldn't have eyes in the back. We didn't execute. Paola executed better than we did, and they were able to score. So that's kind of what happened for us defensively in the second half.
Yeah, and like you said, they scored on a couple of trick plays, kind of a bad snap play there in the second half. But I mean, besides those, we made them push the ball down a little bit more. But like you said, they had the ball a lot longer. They kind of got a lead there at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and really just kind of held it, play clock why they did, and just kind of marched down the field a little bit. But let's get into our touchdown. We did get the ball, and I think it was. I believe it was 28-0 at that point, but we did get in. We had about 10 minutes or so left in the fourth quarter, but we did score a touchdown. I believe it was Newton that got in, finally, 1-yard touchdown. So it was another one of those we drove down the field, got into the red zone, and finally pushed it in there. So obviously that's kind of what we wished we would have saw in the first half, but we saw it there in the second half, and some good things that we can grow off of that Tiger touchdown.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say things we can use to build off of. Just staying patient, trusting what we're doing, not panicking. It takes a lot of maturity to, kind of be able to methodically move the ball down the field. And I thought we settled in at that point, and we were able to do that. Paola pulled some of their starters towards the beginning of that drive, and when they did, we pulled some of our starters. And then we started moving the ball, and they started putting their starters back in. Well, then we put our starters back in, and we just continued to keep that momentum. I'd say for the majority of the second half, Paola did a really good job of stopping the run throughout the entire game. An adjustment that we made at halftime is we knew we were going to need to start opening it up a little bit more and passing the football. Our passing protection was really sound. Caden Cannon, I think he finished the game. He was 6 of 9 passing. So he was really accurate and did a great job of connecting on some of his passes. Dexter had some really good catches. Drayden Marlowe had a good catch. Paxton Allen had a big catch out of the backfield. So we were able to have some bigger plays passing the ball in the second half. Again, kind of our issue was we just weren't able to consistently have positive plays offensively. And that drive we scored, we were able to consistently just stay ahead of the chains. We drove the ball down the field. I thought we did a good job of mixing run and pass. Then we were able to get it in the end zone.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to see some good things grow off of that. I mean, it's good that we, didn't get shut out in the first game, and we saw a touchdown, so it's like we can do it. We're going to do it. And like you said, in week 1, you don't know what either team's going to look like towards the end of the year. Paola could be, you never know. They could be 10-0 going into the playoffs, and we faced a really good team in the state this year, or we can take that next step. But the first week doesn't define the whole season, and that's kind of what I want to get into with the team, with our energy, with how we feeling after the game. I know obviously there's probably going to be a lot of kids upset, mad for one thing or the other, but I think for the most part, what we're trying to bring here with you, Coach Stark, is unity, Tiger pride, and making sure that we're still playing for that name that's right there on the front. I didn't see a whole lot up in the booth when we got down by that before we scored a touchdown of guys kind of slouching their shoulders or anything like that. I thought I saw a good team that, we're young in the aspect of we lost a whole lot of starters last year and going into this year, but I saw that they were willing to fight. They were trying to scratch and claw anyway to continue to try to win the game until the clock's at 0. So I just wanted to get your view on the energy or, fatigue or how you felt we looked, throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah, no, I thought for the most part, we physically were in really good shape. I know talking to the players, I think the majority of them felt the same way. I think it helped us that it was like 60 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
We didn't cramp a whole lot. There were some of them over there that I was like, I did say up in the booth, I was like, how are they cramping? It's one of the nicer
some of their
games.
guys did. We maybe had 1 or 2, and that's not anything that they did wrong. Sometimes it just happens with the first game. So, no, I thought they played really hard. I don't think they ever gave up or quit. So I was really proud of them for that. The last drive of the game we had offensively, Paola put in their JV essentially, and we put in our JV, and our guys did not want to get out of the game. Yeah. At that point it was 34-6, and there was less than 2 minutes left. So they wanted to keep playing. They wanted to keep fighting. We had to protect them from themselves a little bit at that point.
Yeah.
So the first game is, a lot of kids were really upset after the game. That's good. We should be upset. We got beat. In some ways, we got really physically kind of pushed around, which is never good. And that's a tough pill to swallow. So Paola is a great team. They deserve the credit for that. It's okay to be upset. You should never be okay with a loss. But, the things that we've stressed to the team this week is you just can't lose perspective. It's a long season. What we're doing is working. We just got to continue to improve and control what we can control. And I'd say the biggest thing, too, is, nobody's pointing fingers at anybody. We win as a team and we lose as a team. We lost our first game of the season against Paola, and it sucks, and it should, because, playing high school football is a lot of time. The players are working really hard. If you get beat 34-6 and you don't care, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
But I don't see that with our team. I think we're eager to play our next game, and it's nice that it's at home. I think that makes us even more excited to play a game again.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, that is a big moment for us. We do get to come home for our second game, and it's against Parsons Vikings, And, you know, we went over the teaching moments of this game and all that, so I think we can officially, you know, we're at the 30-minute of our studio, so we can put that game behind us now. We can look forward to Parsons. So with that, let's take it back to the studio for our second break of the night, and we will be back with the preview of next week's home opener this week's home opener against the Parsons Vikings. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, my name's Kimba. My name's Gracie. And I'm Nora. We're the Bowmans!
We invite you to stop in at 13 West Oak Street in historic Fort Scott for the new Outpost 13 West.
Tacos and burritos, nachos and salad,
Or both. Build your own at Outpost 13 West in Fort Scott. It's Southwest cuisine where you pick your favorites and we build it. Save room for dessert and vegan-friendly ice cream.
open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 until 8, and Sundays, 11 until 3. Let our family feed your family at Outpost.
Accidents happen when you least expect them. Don't wait to make sure you are covered. At Gross Insurance Agency, our agents are here to keep you protected and get you back on the road. With one of the broadest selection of carriers in the region, Gross Insurance can get you a quote you will love at a price you can afford. Stop in at 18 South National or give us a call today at 620-223-2550. Gross Insurance Agency, small town customer service, big coverage. Follow us on Facebook at Gross Insurance Agency.
Obie's Pizza is a proud all-hit 103.9 sport booster and supports all area school activities because they know that teamwork is a must for success, and students learn that from not only school sports but all school functions. For Obie's locations all throughout the area, go to obiespizza.com, a KOMB sport booster.
Casper Enterprises, LLC is a full-service general contractor providing both commercial and residential new construction and remodeling, as well as boat dock fabrication and repair. Proud supporter of all of our Fort Scott Tigers. Casper Enterprises, LLC is a full-service general contractor providing both commercial and residential new construction and remodeling, as well as boat dock fabrication and repair. Proud supporter of all of our Fort Scott Tigers.
And welcome back here to the Coach's Corner at Bowmans Outpost West 13. Before we do get into the Parsons game a little bit, we did get a little bit, I would say, of revenge. Usually when you travel to Paola for a varsity game, you'll get to play your JV freshman game here at home. So there was kind of a home opener for the Tigers, but not for the varsity quite yet. But let's just dive into the JV freshman game real quick of kind of what we saw there and how we looked. You know, they got a couple minutes there in the varsity game, but they got, you know, full game.
It was a great night for football Monday night. Our freshmen started off well. They won the game, 12-0. So a lot of really good things. Obviously, they played great defensively. Kale Fowler had an interception on defense at the end of the game that just was pretty much a nail in the coffin. They were able to take a couple knees and end out the game. You know, they had Rush Newton had some really good runs, had some really good tackles on defense. Kyler Keating did the exact same thing. Kale Fowler, the quarterback, had a really good completion to Mello Grant. That was a big play. Really good pass. Kyron Kegler had a really good game. He had a huge hit on a kid from Paola. That was just awesome to see how hard he was playing, and it was on a play that was actually kind of one of those funny Monday night football plays. Kale threw a great pass to Mello Grant. Mello caught it, had a great run. Great catch, great run, ended up fumbling the ball. Paola recovered it. The player for Paola ran into our end zone. He got confused on which end of the field he was on. He ran in our end zone, and Kyron chased him down, had great effort. He missed him the first time, and then got up, chased him back down, and got him the second time. So it was a huge play in the game, and it was a great effort by him. The thing I'd say about Kyron is he works extremely hard. He's always focused in practice, and you never have to tell him to increase his effort. You know, just a couple other things I saw the freshmen do really well. Rylan Moore at center, he had some like true pancake blocks, which was awesome to see. It was awesome to see.
Yeah.
Austin Rodriguez did really good on the offensive line as well. Gunnar Keelan, Brennan Benford, Killian Magner. It's a pretty good freshman offensive line. So really that's kind of the difference in the game. They were able to move the ball up front. The offensive line was able to get a good push up front, and Paola wasn't able to really stop us because of it. And then in the JV game, you know, our numbers are pretty low in the junior class. So our JV team is really all sophomores.
Okay.
Paola played a lot of juniors in the JV game, which is great. I mean, Paola's a great program. But we lost 21-0 in the JV game. I felt like we battled really hard, and, you know, we didn't quit. And there were we had some really good things that happened. Some players made some really good plays. Bryson Clark, Isaac Bishop at defensive end, I thought played very well. Taryn Nutter on the offensive and defensive line, thought had a really good game. Jax Armstrong had some good hard runs. Abel Chaplin the same way. Carson Miles had a lot of tackles on defense as a linebacker. Cole Doherty had a lot of tackles as a safety. So there's a lot of things that you saw that you're excited to see, and that, you know, the biggest thing about those freshman and JV games is you're just so thankful those kids get a chance to play.
Yeah. You definitely want them to get their opportunities as well, and hopefully they continue to have a good year. I know we kind of talked about, you know, freshmen might not have the numbers from other schools as well, but it's always good that when we can get a game in for both programs there. So sounds like the future's bright for them. But let's get into our Friday night lights here with Parsons Vikings coming to town here, Frary Field, home opener. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully the stands are packed. They're not listening to me too much, and they're out there actually getting to enjoy what it's actually going to be a little bit warmer than last Friday. So it'll feel like end of summer, early fall football weather more than real fall. I mean, is what it felt like, you know, last Friday, which I really enjoyed. I kind of run hot half the time, but you know, it's always good to get that football weather in here too. Before you know it, we'll have some chili and all that. But let's get into the game. Really, just key matchups. Let's start with the O-line, D-line, kind of in the trenches. I know you kind of before the season started, you said that our offensive line, for as much as we've lost, you really thought they were going to be a big focal point in our program this year. So let's kind of talk about their key matchups and what they're going to have to do. Yeah, you know, Parsons defensively, they've shown this year and, you know, last year that they're an even front on defense. So 4 defensive linemen. You know, we always try to be prepared for the adjustments other teams can make. So if they do something other than that, we'll be all right. But we're expecting them to come out in an even front. You know, they have a good mix of size and power with their interior linemen, and then their defensive ends are really good-looking players. I've really been impressed by both of them. One of them is number 23, Breland Summers, and then the other one's number 15, DeCary Jones. And they're both seniors. They're both 6'1 or 6'2", 200, 210 pounds. They're super athletic. It almost seems like it's the same player. You know, they're both really good, and that's not a discredit to either one of them. One of those guys finished like 3rd in the state in the 110-meter hurdles this past year. Wow. So they're really athletic for defensive ends. I'd say that's one thing that's impressed me about Parsons is their athleticism up front. They have some good players and some really good size on the interior as well. Their linebackers, they play physical. They have a guy starting middle linebacker who's been starting there for him a while. His name is Connor Largent, number 8. He plays tight end some on offense. He's 6'2", 215. He's a great-looking player. They have a safety who's their running back on offense, Chandler Hetson, number 7. He's another senior, 5'10", 185. So, you know, those are the players. I know you're asking about their defensive line, but defensively, so from our offensive perspective, those are the players we're trying to have a plan for. Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, obviously, the key matchups, the good thing with what we run on offense is their DNs is kind of who we're keying off of. So letting them kind of be athletic might play to our advantage because we're going to key off of what they do, and it's going to either be keep or pitch or let the dive go. So that's kind of a benefit that I feel like we're going to have on the offensive side. And if we want to get into kind of what we plan on doing, if there's anything that we don't want to get into it much, but anything different, or it's going to be that same simple triple option, we're going to just run it down your throat. And
yeah, I think it's just kind of going to be the same thing we try to do every game. Mixing in, running pass, making sure we establish the run, sticking with our identity on offense, which is a triple option, and just kind of taking what the defense has given us and trying to attack the weak point.
Absolutely. And then you kind of always have, usually, you sent me your scouting report last week, and you had a quote up there of kind of quote of the week. So if you want to dive into kind of the motivation, the quote that you wanted to give the team, if you want to jump into that. I mean, it's a home opener, so it's kind of – it's only the second biggest game of the year in a sense of it's your second game as the Tiger head coach, but it's also basically your first game in front of the fans and everything that didn't make the trip.
Yeah, no, so the quote I shared with the team is when the bullets start flying, you resort to your lowest level of mastery. So obviously that was kind of in the theme of the game at Paola. Like when you're in a varsity game, you're on the field and you feel like the bullets are flying, you resort to your lowest level of mastery. So the skill that it takes to be successful in the game of football, wherever you are at on attaining that skill or mastering that skill, you resort to your lowest level in the game. So we focused on that, like, hey, we gotta continue to improve, we gotta fix our mistakes, we gotta continue to develop skill, because on Friday night, whatever our lowest level of mastery is, that's going to be the reality of how we execute.
For sure.
So yeah, that's been kind of our theme for the week.
Awesome. Yeah, and then leading on to that practice, Tuesday, because I'm sure they did a little bit of on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday are kind of your days that you get after a little bit more in practice, and just kind of the team feeling good, feeling like this is going to be a good opportunity for us here at home to open.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of the team. On Tuesday, we were out there practicing, and we saw some lightning off in the distance, really out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So
that's Southeast Kansas.
Yeah, it was. So we had to, we got them all inside to make sure they were safe and everything, and then we ended up having to practice in the gym for a little bit, and then we ended up being able to go back outside. So there's a lot of moving parts. Our practice schedules are pretty routine as far as what we do on Tuesday, what we do on Wednesday. So that threw a wrinkle in it. I still feel like we were able to get a lot of good work done yesterday. And then today, we made some adjustments because of what happened yesterday. But I still feel like we were able to get a good day of work in. I think the players are super excited to play at home. Fort Scott has tons of support, and it means the world to the players to have a lot of fans there on Friday nights and
Absolutely.
for the fans to be loud. And they've experienced that. They love it. Obviously I have as well. And I think it's going to be a great atmosphere on Friday night. And, kind of the message to the team, too, has been like, hey, guys, you only get so many high school football games. You only get so many home games on Frary Field. Play with emotion. Have fun. You guys have worked super hard. You got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's, once it's gone, it's gone. And playing high school football is a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And it should be a lot of fun on Friday night.
And you want to remember it for the good times and not really
Right.
the bad, and that's why you try to build the good moments up, and especially playing, you practice on it because we have a turf field now, so you're able to practice on the field, but it's just different when those lights flash on and you look in the stands, and it's not just the stands, it's all the fans, your parents, your friends, your classmates, family, just cheering you on, and you really want that to be good. But before we get to our final break, I do want to talk about just what we think we're going to see from Parsons' offense. We kind of went over their O-line, D-line, or their D-line and what we're going to see from their defense, but let's kind of talk about what we're going to see from their offensive side.
Yeah, so, I mentioned they've got their middle linebacker, Connor Largent. He plays tight end. Then they have a tight end who's even bigger, Sean O'Banion. He's a senior. He's like 6'3", 245 pounds. He's a big player. He moves really well for his size. They have some really good size offensively on the offensive line. Their quarterback does a really good job. He's balanced. He's a dual threat. He can run. He can pass. Their running back, Chandler Hudson, he runs really hard. They've got other guys they rotate in at running back. So, traditionally Parsons is a team that usually likes to spread you out. And that's what they're doing this year. They're a spread offense, but against Lebec County, there were times they jumped into a double tight formation. And sometimes they were in gun, sometimes they were under center. So, they showed a variety of different formations on offense. Another thing about Parsons' game last week when they played Labette County, obviously it's a big rivalry game for Parsons and Labette. The other thing, and we didn't experience this at our game during the game, but they did in southeast Kansas, was it rained a lot.
Yeah.
We'll see. We don't know if that's going to be their game plan against us or if they're going to spread us out more. We had the thought, okay, maybe they got in more double tight formations because the weather was an issue.
Yeah, wet ball.
So we'll see. I feel like we have a good game plan defensively. They have some really good players on offense. The thing that's scary about playing Parsons, and it's been this way as long as I can remember, is they seem to always have players that
very athletic, yeah.
One guy screws up and they can score a touchdown. Not just a big play, but a touchdown.
Yeah.
So they've got speed. They have good size to go with it. They're a good football team.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm just kind of looking at the summary of the game that they had, and they ran the ball 64% of the time and passed 36% of the time. So what we're probably expecting is dry conditions. It's
probably
more 50-50 and all that. Like you talked about, it was a pretty good game against Labette County. There were some points put on the board there by both teams. So it's going to be exciting. Like you said, they got two tight ends that seem like some pretty big guys. So it's going to be, we're going to key on them, and then their DNs, we're going to have to key off them and make sure we make the right read and get after a little bit. But there's nothing better than a home opener, Frary Field, week 2. I mean, kind of see not what you're made of in the sense, because it's still a very young season and young playing team, but it's going to be exciting for the fans and all that. And I didn't know if you wanted to kind of talk to the fans what you expect, be loud, be proud, all that, or if you had a kind of...
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I expect there to be a lot of fans there. One thing about Fort Scott fans is I know they're going to be loud. I know they're proud to be Tigers, and I guess the only thing I'd say to that is it genuinely does make a huge difference. So it's not just coaches speak. You hear coaches talk all the time about how nice it is to play at home. I've coached at other schools where honestly it's not nice to play at home. Truthfully.
Yeah.
So it's not that way at Fort Scott. It's awesome to play at home. It is a home field advantage. The players feed off of that energy. And I think the players are going to play really hard and play with emotion. I think they're going to give the fans something to be excited about and to be proud of. So I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. There's a great tradition at Fort Scott, and that's what it always shows at home a lot better than maybe sometimes on the road, because we don't, traveling, it gets a little tougher sometimes. But being at home, hopefully, I expect a lot of people to be there, and hopefully we pack the stands on the home side. And make sure that the other team knows that, we're there to support our team as well. But before we get into our last and final break, let's any injuries from the Parsons game or from the Paola game that we're looking at that might be a little iffy going into this Friday night?
Yeah, we were able to get out of the Paola game relatively healthy. We've got a couple guys banged up a little bit. And some of that's been from practice. I think some of it maybe is a little carryover from Paola. So, but for the most part, we're doing good.
Good deal. That's good to hear. No bad grades, nothing like that yet. Hopefully early in the season and all that fun stuff. So, I mean, that's the beast of high school sports is sometimes you got school and you got
that ineligibility list can get a couple kids. It got a couple of our guys, but most of them are doing really well.
Getting in the study hall and hopefully getting that grade up fairly quickly and getting after it. But let's take our final break, and we'll get our final thoughts for the Friday night game and a quick look around the SEK, and we'll get out of here. But we appreciate you listening to All Hit 103.9 and watching us on Fort Scott TV on YouTube.
Hi, my name's Kimba. My name's Gracie. And I'm Nora. We're the Bowmans!
We invite you to stop in at 13 West Oak Street in historic Fort Scott for the new Outpost 13 West.
Tacos and burritos, nachos and salad,
or both. Build your own at Outpost 13 West in Fort Scott. It's Southwest cuisine where you pick your favorites and we build it. Save room for dessert and vegan-friendly ice cream.
Open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 until 8, and Sundays, 11 until 3. Let our family feed your family at Outpost.
accidents happen when you least expect them. Don't wait to make sure you are covered. At Gross Insurance Agency, our agents are here to keep you protected and get you back on the road. With one of the broadest selection of carriers in the region, Gross Insurance can get you a quote you will love at a price you can afford. Stop in at 18 South National or give us a call today at 602-223-2550. Gross Insurance Agency. Small town customer service, big coverage. Follow us on Facebook at Gross Insurance Agency.
Marcia's Deli, 6 West 18th Street in Fort Scott proudly supports all area students in both academics and athletics. Big sandwiches, homemade sides, meat by the pound, and deli trays at Marcia's Deli, a KOMB sports booster.
Casper Enterprises LLC is a full-service general contractor providing both commercial and residential new construction and remodeling, as well as boat dock fabrication and repair. Proud supporter of all of our Fort Scott Tigers.
And welcome back to the Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Dillon Duffy, and voice of the Tigers, here with Coach Stark as we wrap up Coach's Corner here at Bowmans Outpost West 13. And just wanted to kind of jump around the league, SEK league here real quick. Pittsburgh's obviously not in the SEK anymore, but they are just right up the road, and they're still a pretty fierce rival of Fort Scott that we like to talk about. And so they won their game last Friday, 24-14. They went to Emporia for that. Coffeyville played Circle, where they lost 55-8. Parsons, Labette County was an SEK battle. We got Parsons coming in this Friday. They lost to Labette 26-6. And then we got Indy versus Columbus, where it was a high-scoring game, 54-34, with Indy taking the win, along with Chanute beating Augusta 22-6. So with that, the SEK is pretty much obviously still up for grabs. It's only 1 week, so that's a big thing. Labette, Indy, and Chanute picked up a win, and then Fort Scott, Coffeyville, and Parsons dropped to 0-1 on the season. But again, going into Friday, we get a SEK matchup as well, week 2, and you know, you never want to. Well, shout out to Coach Steps, basketball coach for the girls. There's no nights off in the SEK, and you never know. It's kind of always a wild thing in the SEK. So with that being said, just kind of the battle, final thoughts: Fort Scott versus Parsons SEK matchup, Frary Field.
Yeah, no, I think kind of how I feel about it, and I think the coaching staff feels about it, and our approach at least this week has been, you know, Paola was a great team. It sucks to lose. I don't feel like we played to our standard of football or played our best game. That's not taking anything away from Paola, because I do think they're a great team and they kicked our butt. But we need to play better. We can change things that we can control. So, you know, Parsons is our next opponent. Parsons is another really good team. They lost to Labette County. Labette County is a good team. Obviously, we play Labette County later in the year. So watching film, you got to have the perspective that your only focus is on Parsons. You're not getting distracted by Labette County or anything else. We'll worry about them later. All our focus has been on Parsons this week, and our focus has been like, hey, if we fix some of the mistakes that we're making and we play better, we're going to be in a chance that we have a chance to win the game. If we don't fix our mistakes, Parsons is a good football team. You know, we have to control what we can control, and that's it. You know, if you do that, you give yourself a chance to win.
Absolutely, and you know, that's kind of the thing you talked about with football is you don't get to play a team 10 out of 10 times like baseball, where you're playing series, or basketball you might have a home and home. In the SEK we do that a lot, but football you got one matchup. So you always want to focus on the game at hand right at the start, play that Friday, figure out the mistakes, you know, the lessons learned, and then jump into the next game, because that's what rears its ugly head. It's for the next 8 weeks now. It's a different team every Friday, every week. So, you know, I look forward to tonight's game, or to Friday night's game, and hopefully it's going to be an exciting home opener here at Frary Field. But I think that's going to wrap it up. If you have anything else for the fans that are coming to the game.
Yeah, no, I just would like to thank them. We had a great turnout at our jamboree, our little red and white scrimmage. So I've got no doubts about it, and I can't wait to hear everybody and see everybody at the field on Friday night.
Absolutely. Definitely take it all in as your first game as a head coach of the Fort Scott Tigers. You know, you've probably been working this for a lot of your life after you got out of high school, and, you know, went on that path of playing a little bit, but then deciding you wanted to be in education, that you get to come back home one day, and we appreciate you being here, and hopefully it's going to be a long tenure with a lot of wins and maybe a couple titles there here and there. But that's going to wrap up tonight's edition of the Coach's Corner. Huge thanks to Coach Jonathan Stark for joining us, and thank you to all of our Tiger fans for tuning in tonight. Now listen, because this Friday is the night, the Tigers are back at Frary Field for the 25-26 home opener against the Parsons Vikings, and you do not want to miss it. So please come support the Fort Scott Tigers from the stands, but if you can't make it, please tune in to All Hit 103.9 for play-by-play audio or the YouTube channel for Fort Scott TV. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a play of Tiger football. This has been your host, Dillon Duffy, signing off with head coach Jonathan Stark, and as the saying always goes, go Tigers.
Hi. My name's Gracie. And I'm Nora. We're the Bowmans!
We invite you to stop in at